Good evening, everybody. Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right, let me just get situated here, make sure I'm live in the right place, get all my notes up and ready to go. I'm getting the thumbs up from my tech guy in the background, also known as Jake Belmont. All right, you guys, hello, good evening. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Louise Belmont, co-owner of Red Pointy Dog Training. I'm a certified professional dog trainer and a reactive dog expert. So I'm here tonight to answer any and all of your questions about dog reactivity, dog behavior, reactivity rehab. If any of you joined the Reactive Dog Roadmap and you still have lingering questions, I'm here to hang out with you and answer anything that comes to mind. And for those of you who are curious about working with me, we're going to talk a little bit tonight about reactivity rehab, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So a couple of things. We've had a lot of really good questions come up in our Reactive Dog Roadmap Masterclass. Hey, Natalie, thanks for joining me. And so I figured I'd start with some of those because there's such great questions. And I'm sure so many of you are dealing with the same thing. And if you're watching and you're a little nervous to send in your question, hopefully this will help you break the ice, okay? So let's get started. One of the questions we get a lot is if you are training your reactive dog with food and it works until it doesn't. Okay, so this could look like you are out walking your dog, and when your dog sees a dog, they get amped up, they start barking and getting bouncy. They'll take treats and move by, but they're still barking and bouncy and getting worked up. What this particular student asked was, my dog's no longer taking treats in that situation, but she had been previously for a long time. And one of the things we talk about in the Reactive Dog Roadmap is the idea that progress is not linear. So even though you were making progress and your dog was able to take food in that situation and it improved for a time, the fact that you're taking steps back is okay. What your dog needs in that situation is distance. So setting up training situations where you can effectively move your dog away from their triggers so that they feel safe and can continue to take treats. So that's such a common one. And it is a real bummer when you're working with your dog and all of a sudden, they become more reactive in situations that they previously could handle. But that is part of the journey. Okay, progress is not linear. And as long as you are going out there doing the work and training your dog and trying your best to help them feel better, you're moving in the right direction. Okay, so just keep that in mind. For those of you just joining us, if you have any questions about your dog's reactivity, about Reactivity Rehab, our training program that closes this evening, or anything else about dog behavior, I am here for you. So live Q&A is for you guys. Whatever you need, I'm happy to answer any of your questions. So pop them in the chat box down below as they pop into your mind. And I promise to answer them. If you have to pop off, you can always catch this on the replay as well. Awesome. Now, for those of you guys watching me, I invite you to introduce your dog in the chat. So tell me a little bit about your dog. How old are they? What kind of behavior are you seeing from them? If you want to share, you don't have to. And what's their breed? So many of you know we have cattle dogs. Well, we have Monzo now, but he's a 13-year-old cattle dog mix. And is he 13? Yeah, he's 13. He's a sensitive guy, which is why we do what we do, right? Our dogs often shape us, and I'm super grateful for that. But awesome. Cool. Great. Yeah, so just introduce your dog in the comments down below. Tell me their name, tell me their age. Awesome. So I do want to take some time to tell you guys about our program Reactivity Rehab, because enrollment closes tonight at 7:59 p.m. and it doesn't open again for 6 months. Now, I know you have likely heard me talk about this program a lot. And if you're here tonight, if you're tuning in, maybe you're on the fence and you're just not sure if this is the training program for your dog. Hey, Bonnie. She's a 6-month-old golden named Charlie. I saw your email. I'll get back to you. Bonnie is joining us inside of Reactivity Rehab, and I'm super duper excited about that. Yeah, awesome. So I want to tell you a little bit about why Reactivity Rehab is different than other programs. Because if you go to Google and you look up reactivity training, you're going to find so many different options for you. And that's the scary thing, is that there's so much information out there and it's just plain overwhelming. And I get it. I don't want to add to the noise. I want to be really clear with you guys why I think this program can help you with your dog. If I keep looking over here, it's because I have notes. Okay. So the thing is that most modern dog trainers train with positive reinforcement. So we do too. It's the best and most effective, kind, humane way to change behavior. So we're going to do that for sure. There's no punishment in this program whatsoever. But what's different is that you will receive unparalleled support. I can't stress this enough. In the program, every single week, you are going to have 2 opportunities to meet with us every single week as a group. And then we also have the students only Facebook community where you can pop in and post questions any day of the week, post a video in your dog's training log so that you can just, every single question or every single struggle or problem that you have that comes up, we're gonna solve it with you. And all of these calls and support is recorded and archived, so you will always have access to it, which I think is super cool. Versus like when I teach in-person classes, you show up, you do the work, you go home. Hope you remember. We do send out homework, but we don't get to record the lessons and everything like that. But by meeting virtually, we get that opportunity. Second, this program is different because we don't just tackle the dog's behavior. We work on your behavior as well. Okay. And this is one of the things that kept coming up in our Reactive Dog Roadmap masterclasses was, I want to do this with my dog, but I'm just so anxious. I want to go out and do things and train my dog, but it stresses me out so much. I get it. Can't even tell you how many times when Monzo and Piper were younger, I'd come home with them and have to just sit down and breathe through a panic attack. It happens. That's why Module 3 of Reactivity Rehab is not taught by me. It's taught by Marlene O'Neill-LaBerge. She's a wonderful, wonderful woman, licensed family dog mediator and a mental health therapist. So she's going to come in and help us work through our own stress. I love learning from her. Every time we do this program together, I learn a little bit more and it helps me as well. So it's point number 2. Point number 3, once you are a Reactivity Rehab student, you are always a Reactivity Rehab student. I will never take the program away from you. You will always have access to your meetings, your recordings, the lessons, the step-by-step tutorial videos, all of the content inside of the online classroom, you will always have access to. So that means, as we move through the program, remember when I talked about earlier, you're going to be making progress and then you're going to take a couple steps back, and that is still progress. It's just not linear. It's so helpful to come back to the program and be like, let's see, where do I need a little tune up? Here. Great. You can pick it right back up again. So I hope those are just a couple things you can kind of keep in mind to help you make the decision about whether or not Reactivity Rehab is right for your dog. Hi, Donna. Oh, I'm so glad you joined. Yay. Okay, let's see. Natalie says she has a Willow, a Pit Lab Beagle mix, reactive when seeing dogs on walks, on or out in front of the house. She's 2, and a 12-year-old Foxhound Beagle who's the opposite of reactive. Natalie, I saw you post their nicknames today. That made me so happy seeing everybody's nicknames. That was super fun. So just a little bit, you guys, I just want to show you here, Reactivity Rehab, it's our comprehensive program to guide you from feeling anxious about your reactive dog and struggling with their behavior to learning how you can transform their reactivity through positive and practical training methods. Now, listen, like I said, it's just another training program, but here's my promise to you. This is what I want to see you achieve when you graduate this program, that you feel confident going out in the world with your dog again. Because that's what having a dog is all about, that you feel comfortable and confident enough to go out there and do things with them. That's my goal, and that's what I hope that my students are coming away with when they finish the program. So I'm just going to pop this up here if anyone's interested. You can head to redponydog.com/yes if you're curious about the program. And still, I'm here tonight to answer your questions. I think Reactivity Rehab could be helpful for you. But if you have questions about your dog's behavior and reactivity, that's why I'm here. So anything you guys got for me, pop it in the comments down below, and I will get to every single one of your questions. I often lose my voice when I do live calls like this, so I always have to make sure I have a drink nearby. All right, let's see here. Okay, so another question we have is, my dog does well meeting some people, but when people approach her, it makes her nervous. Okay, so she does well approaching people on her own, but when people approach her, it makes her nervous. So here's the thing about stranger danger and with any dog, and every dog's different, everyone's an individual, so you have to keep that in mind. But what can happen is, if the dog gets to approach the person at their own pace, and when they get to make that decision themselves, they're going to be much more likely to make good choices when they do, because they're in control of what's happening. They get to decide whether or not they want to say hello or not. When a person approaches them, it takes away their opportunity to assess and make a decision. When someone approaches a dog, it tells them, hey, I'm coming towards you. The dog doesn't get to say, hey, let me think about this. I don't know you yet. Let me sniff you from a distance. Let me check you out and make sure I want to say hello. We have to start to give dogs choice about whether or not they want to do these things. And we have to respect that decision, whether it's a yes or it's a no. One of my students that I'm working with, the dog is really super fabulous at home because people only come through the door that are family and friends. But out on a WALK, as people walk by, he's fine. He sits there calm, cool, and collected. But if a person stops and starts to move toward him, he gets really uncomfortable about that because it wasn't his decision. It makes him nervous that he doesn't have control over that outcome. So what we do is we use a lot of patterns in these situations to help a dog understand, hey, a person is approaching, X, Y, and Z is about to happen. And this is something we do so much of inside of Reactivity Rehab. There's a lot of patterns. And inside of the program, we have what's called toolkits. So you have a plan for every single reactive episode you could find yourself in with your dog. And for any of you who are coming who have a very unique situation, I'm going to make a toolkit for you and help you learn how to make toolkits for other situations that you see moving forward. So the thing about behavior change is that if you don't have a clear plan, you don't have a clear path forward. And it's really difficult to make progress. And when we're not being consistent, we don't have that plan, our dog doesn't know what to expect. And that can make them more uncomfortable and actually make their reactivity worse. So by having a clear, concise, consistent plan, it can be really, really helpful for your dog to feel more safe in that situation. So real quick, what I'd recommend for your dog is that when people approach, you step up and say, hey, now's not a good time. Please don't say hello to my dog. And the other thing I'd recommend is that you teach your dog that this is what's going to happen. You can teach your dog to sit next to you, to stand behind you. You could even just do a scatter feed of treats in the grass, hold the leash behind you while you stand in front of them and say out loud, please don't approach. My dog's in training, even when nobody's there. So your dog can start to get used to that, okay? So we can kind of rehearse that routine. Let's see. Bonnie has a good question. Charlie's becoming more and more reactive on walks, and we did some of Jake's tricks like pullover and sausage tree, and he was okay. But then he saw them and he freaked out, lunging like 5 times, and we were 50 feet off the trail. Bonnie, I'm so glad you're inside Reactivity Rehab, and here's why. Actually, let me go through so I can show you guys, because I think, Bonnie, this will be helpful for you too. Okay. The first week inside of Reactivity Rehab, we're talking about understanding. This is where we're getting to know your dog's breed. We're getting to know what your dog's preferences are, and we're getting to know your dog's, really trying to understand their body language and the reason they're reactive. Because all we can do is really observe their body language and make an educated guess on how they're feeling. Okay, so that's week 1. Week 2 is management and prevention. And Bonnie, this is where I really want you to focus. Okay. And you're already in it. So I'm so excited. We're going to get started soon. But so management and prevention is where we take a break from the hard things. I've talked about this at length on our YouTube channel and over on the blog as well. And we really dig deep into this inside of the course program as well. So in your situation, because Charlie is so explosive, even when you're about 50 feet off the trail, he's experiencing stress that is so great that it's likely creating more problems than it is helping him. And here's what I mean by that. Sometimes we think that exposing a dog to their triggers, even if they're taking food, can help desensitize them. When in fact, what it does is it can sensitize them. It can make them more uncomfortable. And so management and prevention is really where I want you to focus. And the thing is that Charlie is no longer a tiny baby. He is still a puppy, but he's not in that critical socialization stage. So I really want you to take a break. I wouldn't expose him to many dogs unless he knows them and really likes them and has a good relationship with them, so that we don't risk him becoming more sensitive to dogs. So that's really what we kind of hit home in module 2. And now most of you that are watching, you've probably started some form of this with your dogs. You're like, okay, yeah, I understand management and prevention. I've been avoiding my dog's triggers for months. Skip to the good part. Okay. So once we get through that, module 3 is where we're talking about the human end of the leash. But listen, I want to point something out for you guys really quick. You can see on the right-hand side of my screen, maybe it's, right-hand side of the screen, is where all of the support is. Okay. So every week you have that classroom call. And every week we have a group call, but then you also have a new training lesson every week except for the catch-up weeks. Now, here's the thing. I want to make sure your dog has opportunities to rehearse these very important skills. I'm talking pattern games, attention skills, leash skills, emergency management skills, before we start to say, all right, let's bring your dog out around a dog and see how they do. Because I really want to make sure all of my students have, and we really do this a lot in Reactivity Rehab, is that you have that reentry plan. Okay. Because you've been avoiding the walks. You've stopped taking your dog out in the neighborhood. You don't go to the beach. You don't have people over because it's not fun anymore. But what I want to give you, what I want my students to come away with after graduating Reactivity Rehab, is a plan for reentry. How do we get back out into the world so that we can do fun things with our dogs again? And that's really what we kind of work through module 5 and on. So Bonnie, I hope that answers your question. Awesome. I wonder if you guys can hear my husband in the background playing music. Hopefully my microphone isn't that sensitive. Okay, great. So I also want to take a couple moments here and chat with you guys about virtual training, because that's been the other thing we hear a lot from people, is that how can you help my dog if you're meeting with me online? And so here's the thing. Dog training is so much more people training. And I hate to say that, and I don't mean anything negative about that. But the thing is, I talk about this in the roadmap, is if you wanted me to teach your guinea pig something, I'd have to be like, wait a second. What do guinea pigs like? Okay, orange slices, vegetables. Okay, how do guinea pigs move? How do they eat? And how do they learn? How can I engage with the guinea pig in a way that is exciting for them? Okay. And so I have to take some time to really research, how can I do this effectively before I jump into it? And so you likely have lived with dogs your entire life, most likely. If you're brand new to dog ownership, welcome. But it's important that we take time to say, how do I train a dog? How does a dog learn? Because if we don't understand that, we can't effectively teach them. So I think it's so important that we really spend time teaching spend time learning how dogs learn. And we do that a lot in module 4. So really, it's super critical that we train the human and we train the dog. So that's one piece of it. The other piece is that with virtual training, it's so much easier to keep the entire family consistent. I mean, raise your hand if within your home, everybody is consistent with your dogs. Yeah. I can't even raise my hand. And both Jake and I are dog trainers. And we're usually very much on the same page, but we do things a little bit differently. And so consistency is so very important. Without it, your dog likely won't make a lot of progress and they will be frustrated. So, with virtual training, and especially inside of Reactivity Rehab, because you get lifetime access to the program, you always have the video lessons, you always have the PDF guides, and you always have the PDF lesson plans and video tutorials. So, anybody in your family can access that. You can download the lessons and hand them to your husband and say, "This is what I'd like you to do with Fuzzy tonight." Okay. So it's really helpful to have it all written down there and videos for everybody to watch. Everyone is going to be on exactly the same page. So that's number 2. Number 3, like I said, it's so much easier for your dog to learn when they're not stressed. Now, there are many dogs that I've worked with over the last 13 years of me being a dog trainer that when I walk into their home, they do learn and they learn well. But for the most part, dogs that are sensitive or reactive dogs, if I walk into their house, they're not going to do that well, especially if they're reactive to people. But even if they're not reactive to people, they may be very overstimulated by my presence. And so I want you to imagine, put yourself in their shoes. If you're very worked up, you're very stressed, are you going to learn well? You're not. I can tell you that you're not, because that's not the part of your brain that's engaged in that time. And so if we want our dogs to learn as quickly as possible, if we want our dog's behavior to resolve sooner rather than later, training them in the lowest stress environment possible is ideal for the best quality learning. So without me being in your home, I can sit here on my computer and say, "Oh, you're doing great. That's amazing. Okay, perfect. Now hold the treat at his," sorry, huge truck going by. "Hold the treat at his nose and move it over here. Great. Now you're going to do this. Awesome. Now give him the treat. Great job." I can coach you just from my living room to your living room. And so we can help your dog learn in an ideal situation like that by working together through Reactivity Rehab. It's also less stressful for you. Because let's face it, if your dog has stranger danger and I walk into your home, you're going to be worried about that, especially if your dog has ever tried to nip at anybody. Okay. It's a normal behavior that can happen when your dog is fearful, reactive, aggressive, territorial, any of those things, even overstimulated. Even if your dog just loves people so much that they jump all over them and scratch and jump and bark and some maybe even nibble. Okay. If I walk into your home, you're going to be stressed out because you don't know what to do and you don't know what to do to help your dog. So we want to teach you and your dog the skills for how to be successful, how to handle that situation long before you find yourself there. You can think of this as your dress rehearsal. Sorry if I'm beating a dead horse. Hopefully you guys have heard me talk about the dress rehearsal ad nauseum, but you don't get your lines and go on stage the same night. You get your lines, you read them out loud. You read them out loud while you're driving. You read them out loud in the shower. You talk about it to your friends all the time. You just constantly are memorizing your lines before you get on stage. And when you get on stage, you practice your moves and you practice working with the other partners that you're engaging with on stage before you ever go to your big event. And we do the same thing with our sensitive dogs. We want to make sure that they have all of the skills they need on board, reliable. They want to do it before they're ever in a triggering scenario. And so that's exactly what we do inside of Reactivity Rehab. And lastly, it's more affordable. I know Reactivity Rehab is an investment and it seems like an expensive thing. And if you were to break down all of the hours for Reactivity Rehab, all of the hours of support, all of the hours of training that you get, it would end up being 3 times more to work with me in person, one-on-one. I love meeting people one-on-one. I love hanging out with your dogs. But at the end of the day, the reality is most of my clients with sensitive dogs, we meet like this until the dog is ready for me to meet them in the home. Okay. And now this program is not going to teach you how to have your dog say hello to lots of strange people. That's not what this is, but it will get you to that point so that we can then come up with a plan moving forward. The last thing I'll say about this is that I believe in this program so much that if when the program starts, after doing 14 days of the work and showing up, you still feel like it's not the right fit for you, then I'll refund you, no questions asked. That's how much I believe in this program, and I know it can help anybody who lives with a reactive dog. So real quick, I'm just going to share with you some of our testimonials from our graduating students. So this is from Natalie and Willow, and she says, our lives have greatly improved thanks to Louise and her reactive dog rehab course. Our 2-year-old dog Willow is loving with people, but extremely reactive to unfamiliar dogs, leading to stressful walks and vet visits. Louise's course taught us how to understand reactivity, identify Willow's triggers, and manage her behavior effectively. With practical tools, live coaching, and expert advice, we've significantly reduced our anxiety and created a better life for Willow. So that's exactly how I want my students to feel. And I know I'm sitting here telling you guys how wonderful the program is, but it's nice to hear it from people who've actually experienced the course and the support as well. This is from Andriana and Nora. After Reactivity Rehab and Louisa's support, I'm so much more confident in handling my dog's reactions and working towards enjoying life with my sensitive girl. The ease of the virtual format and the feeling of community make this a program that stands out from others. And I love this picture. Andriana is probably going crazy with how much I'm bragging about her, but she got to take Nora to Acadia Park this year, and it makes me so happy that she was confident enough to step out of her comfort zone and Nora's comfort zone and go and do something like this. And they had a good time, which is awesome. That's exactly what we're looking for. Okay, so I know I'm going on and on. The doors close to Reactivity Rehab at 7:59 tonight. So if you are thinking about it, if you have questions about the program, if you're not sure if you're a good fit, pop it in the comments down below, because once those doors are closed, they're closed, and we're not going to open it or offer the class again for another 6 months. And if you're thinking about it, I want you to get in. Okay. Okay. Awesome. Okay. I'm just reading all your comments here. Good. Awesome. Okay, you guys. Great. So if you have any questions, I know we still have quite a few people joining us live. So if you're just watching multitasking, that's great. If you have questions, I want to answer your questions. So take a moment. If you have any thoughts, questions about your dog's behavior, about reactivity in general, or about reactivity rehab, pop them in the comments and I will answer them for you. I do just want to talk really quickly about how you know if your dog is reactive. And so reactive is such a hot word, and it's really a huge umbrella term that describes dogs that bark and lunge at other dogs because they desperately want to say hello, or dogs that maybe bark and lunge at people for the same reason, they want to say hi. Or it can be that they're afraid, nervous, anxious, those kinds of things. And so reactivity is really just any response to normal stimuli that is over the top. It's more than what I'd consider or you'd consider to be normal. Now, with many of my clients with dogs that bark, like let's say a package gets delivered. Oh, he barks, once or twice, but I want him to. He's letting me know someone's here. And then he settles down and it's fine. That is not reactivity. That's dog. That's normal dog behavior. What's not normal dog behavior, what we don't want to see, is a dog who, when a package gets delivered, they bark and race from window to window, scratching at the window. If you try and move them away, they could growl and snap at you. Like, there's just so much more energy and explosivity to that behavior. That's just one example of it, though. It could also just be a dog who gets really worried when a package gets delivered, or really worried when they're driving in the car and they can see people outside the window. So it can look like so many things. And whether your dog barks, lunges, growls, snarls, and snaps, or gets nervous and hides and cowers away, right? So there's both ends of that spectrum. Reactivity Rehab can help you. In any kind of positive training, confidence building, pattern games, any of that is really going to be helpful for any of these sensitive dogs. Okay. So, and that's what we go deep into in the program. And that's why we have such amazing support to offer you guys, because we want to make sure that everybody has, everyone has a unique experience and opportunity, and we want to make sure that everybody feels supported. So real quick, because we're getting started next week, I just want to take a moment to say thank you and welcome to our students. So Stephanie, thank you for joining. I'm really excited to see you inside of the program. Joyce, Bonnie, Cassidy, I can't wait to work with you guys. Rachel, another Stephanie, and Patricia, you guys, I'm so excited that I get to work with you and your dogs inside of Reactivity Rehab. Now, for those of you joining us live or catching us on the replay, doors close at 7:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you're interested in joining, head to redpointydog.com/yes. And I hope to see you guys inside the program. If it sounds like a good fit, make a decision before enrollment closes tonight. All right, you guys, I'm going to start wrapping up, but if anybody has any other questions, I'll hang on for just another moment. I know there's a bit of a lag when we do these lives. Give you another opportunity to post any of your questions. Oh, Natalie, you're so sweet. I missed this. Giving us confidence has been a total game changer, life-changing skills. Natalie, I love you guys so much. She is a graduate of Reactivity Rehab. Awesome. Okay, you guys, thank you so much for joining me this evening. Whatever you decide to do, Reactivity Rehab or not, do me one favor. Tell your dog I said hi, give them a treat from me, and I will see you guys again next time. Bye for now.